When you were 7, a single summer felt like it lasted forever. Now entire years vanish before you've noticed they started. Same clock, same seconds. But somewhere between then and now, time quietly sped up. Nothing about the universe changed. Something about you did. And the reason is happening inside your head right now as you watch this. Your brain is deciding how fast this very moment will disappear. So let's figure out what's actually going on. Because the answer has almost nothing to do with clocks. It has everything to do with you. In 1897, a French philosopher named Paul Janet proposed the first real explanation, and it's still the one most people know. He noticed that a single year doesn't have a fixed length in the mind. It's measured against everything you've already lived. To a 5-year-old, 1 year is a full 20% of their entire existence. It's enormous. It's forever. To a 50-year-old, that same year is 1/50th of their life. 2%. A rounding error. Same 365 days. But relative to everything that came before it, it barely registers. Janet's idea was simple and a little cruel. Every year of your life feels shorter than the last because every year is a smaller slice of the whole. By this math, the stretch from 5 to 10 feels about as long as your entire 40s and 50s combined. Half of your remembered life is over before you turn 30. The American psychologist William James had noticed the same thing a few years earlier. In his 1890 masterwork, he wrote that the years grow hollow and collapse as we age, that the days and weeks of adulthood smooth themselves into a blur, while the days of childhood stand out sharp and enormous. He felt it too. Everyone does. But James, like Janet, was only describing the feeling. Neither of them could explain the machinery underneath it. That would take another 100 years, because if time were only about proportion, every ordinary day would feel the same, and they don't. Here's what the old theory missed. There are two kinds of time, and your brain runs on both at once. There's time as you live it, second by second, and there's time as you remember it, looking back. And the two almost never match. Think about a week somewhere new. While you're in it, the days feel full and slow. But the moment you get home, the whole trip collapses into a handful of bright, vivid images, and somehow it feels like it lasted a month. Now think about the last 3 months of ordinary life. They flew by. You barely felt them pass, but look back, and there's almost nothing there to hold. Psychologists call this the holiday paradox. Novelty feels slow in the moment and long in memory. Routine feels fast in the moment and empty looking back. And that mismatch is the real key to the entire mystery. Your brain does not measure time with a clock. It measures it with memories. In the early 2000s, a neuroscientist named David Eagleman wanted to test this directly. He wanted to know whether terrifying, brand new moments actually slow down time, or only feel that way afterward. So he did something extreme. He strapped volunteers into a harness and dropped them backward off a 150-foot tower in freefall. No rope until the very bottom. Terrifying, and completely new to the brain. He even fixed a small screen to each person's wrist, flashing numbers just a little too fast to normally read, betting that if time really slowed down live, they'd suddenly be able to see them. They couldn't. And yet, afterward, every single subject swore the fall had lasted far longer than it really had. That was the answer. The slowdown wasn't happening in the moment. It was being written into memory after the fact. When you encounter something new, your brain records it in dense, high-resolution detail, more memory laid down per second. And when you look back, all of that detail reads as more time. A new experience is written in high definition. A familiar one is barely written at all. Now put those two ideas together, and childhood suddenly makes sense. When you're a kid, everything is new. Your first day of school, your first bike, the first time you saw the ocean, tasted something you'd remember for the rest of your life, figured out what a friend was. Every single day was carving deep, detailed grooves into your brain. Back then, you weren't trying to remember anything. You didn't have to. The world was doing the work for you, printing itself onto you whether you wanted it or not. That summer at 7 wasn't actually longer. It was just recorded in astonishing detail, and all that detail feels in memory like an eternity. And here's the part that should stop you cold. As you get older, the newness runs out. You've seen 1,000 Mondays. You know your commute so well you arrive with no memory of the drive. You've eaten the same breakfast, walked the same street, and had versions of the same conversation 10,000 times. So your brain, brilliant and efficient, does the logical thing. It stops recording. Why waste memory on something it already knows by heart? It runs the day on autopilot and files almost none of it. That is why you can't remember last Tuesday. Not because it didn't happen, but because your brain quietly decided it wasn't worth writing down. You felt this yourself. It's the quiet shock of a December when you realize the whole year somehow slipped through your hands and you can't account for where it went. You didn't lose the time. You just never recorded it. An entire month of routine can pass and leave behind almost no trace at all. And a stretch of time with no memories inside it feels, when you look back, like it barely existed. This is the real engine of the acceleration. It was never the clock speeding up. It's your life going unrecorded. The years feel faster because they are emptier. You're living just as many moments as you ever did. You're simply keeping fewer of them, which means the thing we call time speeding up is really something much quieter and much sadder. It's the slow surrender of attention. It's the day you stopped noticing. But there is a strange gift buried inside that too. Because if time is built out of memories, and memories are built out of novelty and attention, then time is something you can partly control. You can't get back the years that already blurred, but you can slow down the ones ahead of you. Every time you do something new, take a different route, learn a skill, go somewhere you've never been, meet someone, truly pay attention to a face you love instead of half watching a screen. You force your brain to start recording again. You lay down detail. You make time thick. It's why a single month of travel can feel longer than a year behind a desk. It's why the most present people seem to live the longest lives from the inside, no matter how many years they're actually given. They simply never let the recording stop. This isn't a philosophy, it's a mechanism. The same brain that let your childhood feel infinite is still sitting behind your eyes, waiting. The kid who thought summer would never end, and the philosopher doing his sad arithmetic, and you, right now, watching this, are all living the same seconds. The only question is how many of them you'll actually keep. Your childhood didn't feel slow because you were young. It felt slow because you were awake. Fully, helplessly awake to a world you had never seen before. Somewhere along the way, most of us fell asleep to it. We started calling that speed when really it was just forgetting. You cannot add more days to your life, but you can decide how much life goes into the days. Time isn't running out any faster than it used to. You're just noticing less of it. And the moment you start noticing again, this one, right here, is the moment it begins to slow back down.